Today's duelists have several options for playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Online, both officially and unofficially, with things like Duel Links, Master Duel, and technically still Legacy of the Duelist if you really need your fix somehow. All of these games came after a strange online service which allowed you to duel strangers online in the early aughts. Yu-Gi-Oh! Online, a strictly NA and EU product initially that allowed for the long sought after ability to duel other individuals online, was released on April 11th, 2005. This product is extremely unique, even for a Yu-Gi-Oh! Game. It doesn't follow the formula for other games and was, by far, one of the most predatory products Konami ever released, for this franchise anyway. This game launched in the wave of other pay-to-play style online games. Essentially, you could compare it to the previous year's Titan release of World of Warcraft, which required a subscription service to play. But in this game, you could launch the game and stare at your cards. Without Duel Pass points, however, that meant you could not participate in anything gameplay related. And that seems almost more sinister than locking it out entirely. So, how does this ancient fossil of a game design gone by stand up to time? We'll just have to find out today. Let's talk about how the first game came about. This game actually did launch with a traditional PC retail release that included an install and game disc, a manual, and also some duel passes. But technically the game could be installed off of one of the retail dual pass keys because it also included a CD-ROM. You could actually find it online as well. The disc didn't actually matter, it turns out. What this means is that you weren't really buying a game. You were buying the dual passes and getting the game client at no additional cost. Just to make perfectly clear what the monetization method here was, Dual Passes were most popularly known by their USB Dual Pass key product that was on store shelves. This option was, however, only ever available in the US and the UK. You would plug it into your computer and it would stall for you 3 additional Dual Passes, or 90 Dual Pass points. A free card chosen from a set, and 10 mileage points, which was an alternate currency that could be used to get more cards. You got a fun flash drive with a Yu-Gi-Oh! Design on it for your troubles, but it only contained a whopping 128 kilobytes of memory, so it was really only a piece of memorabilia after that. You could also purchase the Dual Pass 150, which was an online choice, or you could purchase an SMS Dual Pass. The first one was equivalent to 5 Dual Passes, and the latter got you 15 Dual Points, half of a standard Dual Pass, and 10 mileage points. That option only cost about $1, however, and could be done very quickly. The first game launched with a designated card pool based on the OCG rather than the TCG, up to Invader of Darkness, which is the equivalent of Invasion of Chaos over in the rest of the world. Each account began with a starter deck and 10 Dual Pass points. To duel another player would cost you, yes, cost you, 1 Dual Pass point. At the conclusion of a single duel, both players receive a card. At the conclusion of a match, each player would receive 3 cards. These cards were selected from a pack pool. These packs were custom built and they changed with the in-game seasons. As far as I can tell, anyway. Important to note, all duelists begin at level 1, and you can't progress to level 2 until you complete 36 duels. You can do the math on that, right? You'll need to burn through at least 1 full Dual Pass and some of another before you can face players that are more competitively minded. One of the rotating events that would stick through to the end of Yu-Gi-Oh! Online was the Gunslinger event. A very weird name for what it actually was, but essentially you needed to win a bunch of duels in a row, and based on your win streak, you would earn different cards, referred to as sort of a survival mode. Only players that were level 2 or higher could participate, which meant only people with some financial investment already were able to play. A frustrating aspect of this pay-to-play scenario is that Yu-Gi-Oh! Games are long, especially when playing a match, and yet you were expected to pay the toll man $1 every 10 duels at the bare minimum. Forget the fact that level 1 of the game is entirely unbalanced. Since so many duels are required to get more skill-based matching, it's highly likely a beginner will face an expert who is taking it slow or cannot immediately financially invest further than the original purchase. But even then, there's not really a way to ensure the cards you want are the cards you get. Yu-Gi-Oh! Online would continue until the end of 2006, where it would be replaced with an update so large it would actually replace the original client entirely. Yu-Gi-Oh! Online Duel Evolution launched as the follow-up major update to Yu-Gi-Oh! Online 1 on New Year's Day, 2007. It made the first Yu-Gi-Oh! Online client obsolete, but did allow for players to bring over all their data like card collection, duelist level, and duel pass balance. Plus, you got to make an avatar for yourself to truly immerse yourself in the world of Yu-Gi-Oh! If that wasn't enough, they even implemented a feature that allowed you to explore Domino City and Duel Academy, where some of your favorite friends from those shows were hanging out in the schoolyard. Looking for trouble, never looking too hard. This game also experimented with a new way to incentivize people to play the game in the form of theme decks received from Duel Passes. As new generations would become available, the first time you bought a Duel Pass from that generation, you would get the corresponding theme deck, and that did include a full 40-card deck. This game continued to have occasional events like Gunslinger, and also introduced the Duelist Trials, which was based on your cumulative wins instead of a win streak. They also had yearly anniversary events and even seasonal tournaments, all of which would kind of do the same thing as any other event, reward you with cards based on where you placed and how well you did. And all of these continued to cost Duel Pass points every time you participated. Of course, this game also introduced a brand new set of cards and would update the pool accordingly as time went on. But all things had to come to an end eventually, and in this game's case, chilling out in the schoolyard simply wasn't enough. Next time, they would have to go fast if they wanted to feel alive. Yu-Gi-Oh! Online Duel Accelerator was launched worldwide on December 18th, 2009. I gotta tell you, these people have a weird idea on good launch windows. A week before Christmas in your most major markets and on New Year's Day? Well, it seemed to work out for a while anyway. This game replaced the client for Duel Evolution and replaced it with a fully new, redesigned game and featuring characters from 5Ds. This game also had avatar creation and more options available to you. The coolest new feature, however, for this game was the ability to trade cards with other duelists if you were level 2 or higher. Just wanted to offer a quick correction. Obviously, you can tell from the picture above, you could actually do this more or less from the first game at least. I'm not sure why this wasn't spelled out anywhere on a feature list on anything I was able to find. But yeah, just wanted to offer this quick correction. And also offer, if you have any corrections for me, feel free to leave them in the comments. Anyway, back to the show. This was also now incentive to duel the NPCs, as dueling them over and over again would eventually net you unique cards. But yeah. As far as I can tell, outside of these additions I've outlined up here, it was kind of like business as usual for the game. I couldn't find a lot of other unique things that happened. If you know of any, I would sure love to hear about it, because let me tell you, all of the things that exist for this game is not a lot. It was often theorized one of the reasons this game ultimately came down was due to rampant hacking. No official reason was ever given, but due to the fact that 2 simulators would come out just a couple years later, I can only imagine there was some kind of internal struggle, hackers or not, forcing them to close down this client for good. Yu-Gi-Oh! Online has had a spotty place in history. If you ask people today what Yu-Gi-Oh! Online was, it's unlikely anyone you know is even familiar, let alone played it. But in its day, its events were reported on by anime news sites and forums. Clearly there was a market, as it continued to iterate and update card pools and events well into 2012. An official online way to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Would appear again in 2014 with the announcement of Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Arena and Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Generation. But despite all that, Yu-Gi-Oh! Online is actually the game that most Yu-Gi-Oh! Streamers would stream under up until the release of Master Duel back in February of 2022. So yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh! Online was getting a lot of extra traction it didn't actually deserve. Yu-Gi-Oh! Online and all its sequels would essentially serve as a Rosetta Stone of all the mistakes Konami has made when it came to monetizing Yu-Gi-Oh! As an online card game. And it would not be until 2022 that they would release a game that was actually good. This game even survived a fraud scandal in the US, permanently disabling the ability to buy the SMS Duel passes in North America until the release of Duel Evolution. I myself played Yugioh Online with a USB Duel Pass purchased from my local Toys R Us when my dad was willing to basically let me try things if I showed an interest. He knew I liked Yu-Gi-Oh, and so playing this game must have seemed like an okay idea to him. Or he didn't get it at all, equally as likely. I would proceed to have one single duel, become fed up with the fact that duels cost money and that I could not get my favorite cards, and leave the game forever. Unfortunately, much of the real history of these games is more or less lost to time. The official Yu-Gi-Oh! Online website is captured on the Wayback Machine, and the whole website relied on Flash, so you have to emulate that in order to do anything. And I discovered there was a UK-based forum, but unfortunately the domain has since lapsed, and apparently also began in 2012, the same year the game closed forever. Konami has historically never been good at preserving its video game history, and this appears to be yet another victim of its archival laziness. This kind of product was not unheard of in the early aughts. Pay-to-play games were a natural evolution of many other pay-to-play models of the internet, pay-per-view, and long-distance phone calls, just to name a few. This game is mostly just so unique to me because, one, like any other game, it has fallen completely into the dark ages with no way to accurately emulate the experience, and two, because it encompasses such a large swath of Yu-Gi-Oh! History. Single-player games, and even games that had free multiplayer functionality, would continue to be developed and released, and yet somehow Yu-Gi-Oh! Online persisted for 7 years. It even got to exist for a year alongside one of the most popular online Yu-Gi-Oh! Clients, Dueling Network, a fan-based product that simulated real-life tabletop Yu-Gi-Oh! With virtually no automation. How about you, dear viewer? Did you ever participate in any era of Yu-Gi-Oh! Online? Did you ever jump ship to go to DN, or just realize your money was better spent elsewhere? I mean, think about it. People probably spent hundreds of dollars on Yu-Gi-Oh! On this online client, and now there's almost less than nothing to show for it. This wasn't really a retrospective so much as a historical dive into the strangeness of this product, but nonetheless, I thank you for going on this little journey with me. Thanks so much for watching, everybody, and I'll see you in the next one.